The Labor Party took a negative gearing platform. We're going to get rid of negative gearing in 2019. We saw what happened to them in that election, and sure, there were other factors like Queensland, for instance, where they did very badly in coal seats, etc. But if you're going to say we're going to fiddle with negative gearing, where do they think the houses are going to come from that people are going to rent? I know it's great if you own an investment property. I've got a property in Adelaide. I'll admit it. I'm, using negative gearing to my advantage, but I'm renting that property out to someone who lives in it. What do they think is going to happen? People are going to just up and sell. And then you've got other people who will either be able to afford to buy a property and get punted out because someone doesn't want to rent it out anymore. Fantastic. What are they going to do?
Well, I think negative gearing, a lot of people rely on that. And I think it's such a huge thing. And so much of the problem with our country and how it's ran is it seems to hurt the people that it should be helping, and it seems to help the people who should be trying a little bit harder. Like people who own a house or who, invest their money into something like that get punished, and then I'm not saying that people who don't own a house aren't worthy of help or anything like that, but my point is we punish good and we reward bad. And it seems like these sorts of things are punishing something good that actually helps society, that helps people. And look, I think that it's a bad idea when you mess with things like that. Like you said, tax cuts aside, I think at the moment, whoever can convince the group of Australians that their life's going to be made easier is going to win the votes, because people are sick of these word things. People are sick of, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. People just want to know that they can have a roof over their heads, they can feed their kids, they can educate their children. People want tangible solutions. And I'm sort of sick of hearing these polling. I'm like, who's going to convince me that they're going to actually make my life easier and my family's life?
Would Labor actually, and we're getting this sort of wishy-washy language, which is exactly what we got with stage 3. Yeah. Would Labor, Joe, actually go down the road of canning negative gearing?
I don't think so. I obviously cautioned, against removing or backflipping on stage 3, and they did that. So what would I know? And again, to be honest, I think that situation genuinely changed. A year ago, they had absolutely no intention of doing for it, and now they realise, of course, they had to do it. But it's still a broken promise. There's no question about that. Negative gearing is different for a couple of reasons. Firstly, just on the sort of politics and the genesis of it, scrapping the negative gearing changes was something that Labor came up with of its own accord. It rewrote its national policy platform. It junked about 3/4 of the pages and 3/4 of the policies. Very good mates with the bloke who rewrote it. And that basically said, right, get rid of all this class warfare stuff, get rid of anything that smells of wealth redistribution, focus on fewer things.
Just do it when we're in government.
You could argue that. But
just do it. Just say we're not going to do it.
But again,
it worked. Whether you can do it every time, I don't know.
But this wasn't like a clever wedge that was the coalition's policy, and then you put a gun to Labor's head, so you're going to back it or not.
100%.
Crap, we've got to do that. This is something they wrestled with, came to of their own accord. The second thing is in 2019, there was a housing affordability crisis. Now, the rental crisis is much, much worse than that. So making homes more affordable for people, which is what the changes for negative gearing would presumably do, is all well and good. But the much more acute crisis, and you can ask anyone who works in homelessness and stuff like that, is just people literally being able to, not getting a foothold in the housing market, literally being able to find a rental to get a roof over your head. It's the worst it's been in decades. And like you say, negative gearing would change. Negative gearing actually encourages investment and rental properties, even though it hurts first-time homeowners. So the nature of the crisis
and the vast majority of people who have an investment property, I know there are a handful of people out there who have shed loads of homes, and you can argue that they're hoarding them, etc. But the vast majority of the vast majority of property investors are mum and dads who've got a very small portfolio. It might be 2 or 3 units that will essentially be their superannuation, right? So they're the people that you ultimately hurt in the end.